And hello once again, and welcome back to Nerve Check, the best Kings of War podcast listened to by tens of listeners. We are here once again to do yet another army review. Today we are doing Ogres with two of our best Ogre players in the Northeast. If you had to ask me, unfortunately, one of them, of course, is possibly the best player in Canada. My
Oh my
co-host,
God,
the
stop
looks
it.
himself, Mr. John.
Hello.
And we've got Eamon Linger once again to come along with us to do a bunch of stuff for us. So how you doing today, guys?
No, not too bad.
Excellent.
Perfect. So once again, when the way we do these things is we're not going to go through absolutely everything. So this might not be the army review you might want, but it's definitely the one that you need. So we will start with the Army Special Rule, which apparently is supposed to be the Crocodiles, which is something that doesn't really show up that often. Is this something that you guys use a lot of, or is it just something that you use seldomly, depending?
I mean, if I have so it's 5 points, and what it allows you to do is re-roll 3 wounds that didn't go through. So overall, it's a very meh thing, but it's only worth 5 points. So if I had 5 points lying around, is it worth more than a Blade of Slashing or a Mace of Crushing? Sort of.
I don't think I've ever actually used them.
Oh, there you go.
But that's because they don't come for every unit.
There's only 2 units, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
you can take them on Braves and on
Can't
Hunters.
take them on Braves.
Oh, sorry. I meant regular
Warriors
and Hunters.
Yeah, Hunters and Warriors are the only 2 that can take them.
Which doesn't really seem like an army special rule. So the real army special rule, I guess, would be brutal, because everything in this army seems to have brutal.
That isn't a goblin.
That isn't a goblin. Yeah. So let's just say that it's brutal anyway. Something that people should know about that. We will go over the faction orders. We've got Show of Strength. Cost is 3. You gain an additional +1 brutal to the end of turn. And we've got Hidden Paths, which is Pathfinder as a special rule. Again, cost of 3. Something that you guys like the looks of, something that you may or may not use. I know we haven't done a lot of Command Dice tournaments up here, but what do you guys think of these two? What about this additional brutal, which I think is absolutely and utterly insane? And of course, Pathfinder. Let's start with the brutal thing.
Brutal's dumb because we have something called the Big Deal, which is a mammoth that can just blatantly give +1 brutal to anything already. And brutal stacks. As a result, you can give brutal 3 relatively easily in the army with the command points, which is just like, here, +3 damage. Go fuck yourselves. Like, it's not nice, because what it means is that your thick chaff, which ogres are already in plenty of, with their hunters and braves and stuff, where it's just like, so my thick chaff can actually hurt you, and if I roll really decently well, could potentially just remove your regiments. So it is not a fun thing. I kind of understand thematically why they put it in. I think that it's a little bit broken in ogres.
What about you, John?
I think it's hilarious.
If
I was playing ogres, I would use it all the time. All the time. That's a great special rule. I love it.
What about the Pathfinder? I think this is. I know they've got
better.
A couple of units, but I think that actually is pretty good. I've found it useful in the Trident realms. That having Pathfinder on the go is something that you can really.
Ogres are usually really lacking for any kind of access to Pathfinder. We really only have one unit that does. Good unit, don't get me wrong. But being able to give it to anything so that your warriors can charge through the forest without issue, or you need to just run your hero to the other side to go capture an objective, or something silly like that. Having on-demand Pathfinder, I think, is just not completely broken, and I think it's a solid addition to the army that can potentially get boxed out due to just the size of the units.
All right. Well, with that in mind, let's start in. We'll get in with the Red Goblin Rabble. This is just a bunch of goblins. The fact they come in a legion might be something you may want to look at some point in time. We may have a celebrity show up on on an ogre cast.
Nope, she refused.
Too bad. Maybe next time. The legion is about the only thing that seems anything remotely interesting about this unit. What about you
Nah,
guys?
man, regiments of them. Regiments of them. Take 4 or 5 regiments of them and just run them at people so that they have to kill them before your ogres get there, and then you get to double charge because your ogres can see over all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah.
I had narrow wins over lists that utilize probably 4 regiments of them, which is ultra cheap for chaff. And now that siege breakers are only speed 5, I actually like them a little bit
more. Yeah. 75 points for a regiment. That's dirt fucking cheap too.
Yeah, and they score and they're unit strength too, so that's also hilarious if you just need to leave them behind somewhere.
All right, well, let's move on down a little bit here. We've got more goblins. These are the sharp sticks. So these are your phalanx, spear, sons of beaches. Again, they regiment the legion sort of thing. Same sort of thing, only with like, would you consider that over the rabble itself, or is the extra
No
10 points, is that worth it?
I mean, 10 points to get phalanx and 3 extra attacks. For the amount of cab that's in our meta, it's probably not a terrible idea. Because 40 points over isn't too much for an ogre player. Because realistically, we're almost always sitting with 80 to 120-ish points left over in our lists anyway. So,
Really?
Are we?
I mean, I am. And then I fill it up with magic items that I don't necessarily need.
Do you?
My list, I have like 150-ish to 200 points worth of magic items on almost everything.
Well, maybe
120 points is a warrior regiment that scores and is a pain in the ass to move.
Or a horde of fucking goblins. There you go. Now you've got a completely different thing that you can. We're gonna.
And if you're just taking it on items you don't need, just take the horde of goblins and leave them lying around in the back.
They're items I want. There's items I want. There's
ogres don't need items. You're fine. You're fine. Ogres don't need items. That's a myth. Right, next unit.
Let's continue on here. We've got the red goblin spitters. These are goblins with bows.
Nope.
I've never bothered, so I have no idea.
Well, yeah, these again are just a bunch of goblins that are running around taking like 10 or 20 shots. Not fantastic, but something somebody might think about taking instead. I should say that all these goblins, they're
all irregular. Yeah.
I want to be sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's start getting into the meat of things here. Now, since we've gone over a little bit of goblins, let's get into some berserker braves. Really, it's the wild charge D3 and the fact that these things are fearless.
Yeah.
Oh, they're great. They're thick chaff. You can put down regiments of them. They can hold a line. They'll basically take on any other chaff in the game fairly well. Because they're dash 15, you don't really need, like, some chaff you want to kind of babysit, or some flanks you kind of want to babysit with Inspiring. You don't really have to with these guys. And them having a 13 to 15 inch threat range is just really good. And them having Brutal and Crushing Strength 1, 15 attacks, like, they're good chaff.
No, yep. I know you normally run these as more as a regiment than a horde there, Eamon, but have you dabbled with the hordes at all, either one of you? Or
the only way I take it as a horde is if I gave it Brew of Sharpness so they hit on 3s.
I've taken it as a horde before. They are hitting on 4s is a bit of a liability. So yeah, if you've got points for Brew of Sharpness, then they're crazy. But they also just do a job as being scary and a longer threat range than some other ogres in the list.
I think we should also mention the fact that these are mercs, which now actually matters.
Yes.
So, yeah. So we'll get into why later. We don't have to worry about that just about now. Let's go on to boomers there. How about you there, Eamon? Why don't you go through this for us?
So boomers are really good. They have a ranged attack, which is technically only 12 inches, but it has steady aim. So you can move your 6 and shoot, so they have an 18-inch attack threat range, realistically. I personally like the other form of ogre shooting, which are shooters, a bit better. The advantage of boomers, though, is that they are not irregular like the shooters are. But they're still ogres. They still have Brutal, still have Crushing Strength 1. So even if, at the end of the day, you're like, I'm going to charge your shooting unit, be like, okay, cool, go ahead. I'm still ogres. There's been plenty of time where my shooting hordes have beaten the crap out of whatever that just charged them, won the combat, and then proceeded to shoot the next turn. People kind of
I'm into
underestimated it. Yeah, like people have underestimated it because they're like, "Oh, it's a shooting unit. It's going to be crap in melee." No, I'm still decent. I'm not as good as my melee fighters, but I'm still hitting on fours. Like overall, I definitely think it's a good unit. I personally play towards the other shooters a bit more, but overall, I think boomers are a great unit.
Well, since you mentioned them, let's see the difference between them. So the difference really is it's piercing 2 for the crossbows, which are 30-inch range instead of the 12-inch and piercing 1. They're not steady aim, but they also do hit on 5s. John, what do you think between the two of these? Obviously, Eamon's more into the longer shooting, but what about you there, man?
I historically played neither.
This is true.
So I've tried both of them. Shooters do give you a nice kind of first round of shooting because you can shoot really far and they can help you pick stuff off late game if they're still alive. Boomers give you a lot of flyer control if you're worried about flyers popping over and hidden into the backfield because you can pivot and shoot them if they're a weak flyer. If it's a strong flyer like a friggin' dragon, well, you've got an uphill battle anyways. But you could at least put some wounds on before the dragon charges something you don't want it to.
It's still definitely a bloody option and something that ogres have to worry about, which is that a lot of that speed and getting behind people.
Yeah, ogres definitely have a. I mean, they used to have more of an uphill battle in terms of flying circuses, but now that we have crocodogs, it's a different ballgame. But boomers are definitely much better for area control behind your lines. The other thing is that shooters actually got a bit of a buff because they've lost pot shot, which is awesome. So now they can still move and shoot.
And reload, which they used to have.
Yes. So shooters overall have been just slowly being buffed up more and more and more. And considering they're the same points, if you're not hurting for unlocks and you want more of a ranged threat, just so that you're doing something else, maybe you didn't do lightning bolt spam or something like that, I think that there's benefits to both of them, assuming you're not really hurting for unlocks.
Well, let's go on here to the hunters. John, what do you think about these Sons of Beaches?
I think they're great. Brutal, always. Crushing, Ensnare, Pathfinder, Slayer D3 as well has led to some nasty surprises because I hadn't read rules since they got that update, so got caught by that once or twice, which is always entertaining. And they start at speed 7, which is nice. So you can rip them up through the forest and through the terrain that's on the tables without any worries. Or you can just park them in there and have somebody take a hinder charge into Ensnare and be -2 to hit. I think they're a great piece in the Ogre list.
Now, what about whenever I look at these, I spend more time looking at the regiment. I think they're more cost effective, especially because the Slayers only ever D3, regardless if it's a horde or a regiment size there. But most of the people around here, they play them in hordes. Is there something better for one to the other, or you think either or will be just fine?
Punch, volume of attacks, right? So around here, people play them as attack pieces, especially with the change to siege breakers now. You see them more because they do give you some board control and some positioning where you can park them in terrain and just have people really not want to charge them and be able to charge out with their longer reach, as well as being able to have still the 18 attacks.
And these were also still mercs. So this is all.
Yeah.
Yep. Everything we've talked about so far has been merc.
Well, let's get into the one of those things that is not a merc. Let's get into siege breakers. So, Eamon, the man that the pair of you have been known to play a few of these units, like maybe one or two. So why don't you start here, Eamon?
So siege breakers are great. They used to be better. In my opinion, they got hit with the nerf bat a wee bit too hard.
Not hard enough.
No, siege break. Just to give people an idea, siege breakers, though we don't get into too much of the noticeables. They're crushing strength 2. They're also your only native crushing strength 2 ogre, which is really important because ogres actually only have access at most is 2 sources of Bane Chant, because Nom and somebody with the loot are the only 2 access to Bane Chant that you have. They do not have it natively anywhere else. So having crushing 2 off the bat, especially with Def 5-ish being the kind of the meta for our area at least, means that you're reliably doing wounds all the time. Going down from 6 to 5 or 5 to 4 is okay, but going down from 5 to 3, I think, is a very big jump. They used to be speed 6, but now they're only speed 5. And at March of Death is actually my last hurrah that I did with them to try to figure out if they're still viable to play as a spam. The answer is no. Being out-alphaed with Siege Breakers, I thought would be a lot better match into it. Turns out that is not quite the case. The other thing is that they've lost the Merc ability, which we'll explain a bit later down the road, but that is a very important thing.
And John, anything to add with these guys that used to be your bread and butter?
It's just sad. Like,
Listen,
I had stopped playing them before this nerf happened. Thank God, or it would have been even more sad. But speed 6 to speed 5 hurts them a lot because then they get outcharged by almost everything in the game.
Well, these
Except
are
dwarves, but even dwarves somehow manage to get the drop on them now. It's crazy.
I mean, they are Def 6 in the front because they do have the big shield, but
Sure.
not as like Def 6 isn't what it used to be because, like you were saying, everybody's teching to take on like the Def 5s and 6s. So.
Well, and the Def 6 dwarf meta has led everybody to tech even harder into being able to crack armor. So everyone is already prepared to crack armor, and Siege Breakers can't really kind of hold muster anymore with their drop in speed.
Yeah. Well,
if they just dropped the speed and kept the Merc, I think they would have been perfectly playable, or the vice versa. If they decided to drop Merc but kept the speed, I think, again, it would have been playable. The fact that they got hit with both, I think, was the nail in the coffin. Having, like, one horde of these guys chilling around, maybe even with, like, a helm of, helm of confidence that gives them inspiring self, putting them on a flank and being like, this is my off flank, it's going to hold whatever objectives over here because you're either going to overpoint to remove it, or I'm just going to sit and hold on to it, and anything that you're going to charge is probably going to die to it, and I don't really care. As a singleton, I think they're still viable, like just having a horde of them chilling, but having them be the backbone of your army, I think those days are done and gone.
The days of the spamming 5+ units is gone.
5. I only spammed 5 most of the time.
Max I had was 5. I had a list for 6, and I was told not to bring it because there was new people coming to the tournament.
Hang on, let me dig out from all this salt.
Oh no, I did 6. I played 6 at one point. It's crazy, but yeah. Anyway. Dropping down and taking 2 chaff units was much better.
Let's go on to the warriors, which we now get into a possible legion size of these things.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You can replace their shields for making them defense 4, make them crush 2. You can give them a monarch, which also gives them a redeploy, which you can
matriarch, you sexist.
Oh, I'm sorry, matriarch. And
I'm kidding. Monarch could be either.
Monarch is the queen, right?
Monarch is a general term.
Could be either, but it's a matriarch. Specifically a matriarch. The ogre boss lady.
Okay. Well, the ogre boss lady can also give them a crocodile, and these are mercs. I've seen.
No, she gives them redeploy.
She gives them, but the crocodile is possible for the unit.
Yes, accurate.
So, what do we think of the matriarch? What do we think of crocodiles? And what do we think of the possibility of playing 1 or 2 legions, which I swear I've never seen anybody play before?
No,
I played 1 legion. I never played 2.
There may be a James Smith in that one.
James Smith did, yeah.
James played a double legion. I had a couple lists when I was experimenting with it that had single legion that was doing okay. That was backed up by like 3 hordes of hunters, I think it was.
Hunters. You were playing it here.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely something to work with there. I have to get a bit more games in to get more of a final opinion on it, but I definitely think taking at least 1 legion for 2 reasons. One is that it is going to be the biggest thing on the board with a target on its back. And as long as you plan around that, knowing that your opponents probably dump a stupid amount of points into trying to remove it, you're fine, because that means your other units can go do whatever they else need to do. The other thing is that this thing will delete whatever it touches. They hit on 3s, have Crushing Strength 1, possibly even 2. I know my list was experimenting with the Crushing Strength 2 version of it. That touches whatever it hits. And with how wide of a frontage it has, it's going to have a target in front of it that it's going to be able to touch. The redeploy is kind of meh. I've always found that if your opponent knows what they're doing, they don't really care how you're deploying things too much. They already have a plan kind of set out for like, okay, I need my units to go pick up this token. I need these units to go deal with that, like hold this line. So redeploy, I don't know. I don't really think this game has too many gotcha moments, so redeploy isn't really a big thing. It might be like a bit of a spicy thing, but because of how big the footprint of the Legion is, your opponent's going to know where you're going to put it. Where's this giant hole in my front line? I wonder what could possibly go there. Like, unless you're going to redeploy it to a flank, which, okay, cool. I don't see the point of it.
What about you here, John? I know you've played a Legion and done some nasty things to people, especially when it's like, oh, and click and follow. But, you know.
The Legion gives you oftentimes different charges that a lot of people won't see because you just have to pivot and touch. And it's a big base to pivot. So it's a 240 mil base swinging around in the field there. So you can pivot it pretty far and make some connections people don't always see. Redeploy, I haven't played with the redeploy because the Matriarchs weren't a thing really when I was playing with them. So I've never tried it. I think it could do some funny things, but like Eamon said, a lot of it's going to be telegraphed because that's a big base you're moving around. Now, if you take it on the hordes, then it gets funnier because then you can hide that redeploy for where your battle line's going to go because you can deploy the whole thing on one side and move it all to the other side. You can make it a lot different if you're doing that on the hordes. On the Legion, it's harder to camouflage your play. But yeah, they kill lots of stuff and they get in the way. The only downside is you can jam up an ogre line real easy if you can just stop that horde from moving.
Yeah.
So if you've got like an elf chariot that can just get there on turn one and just hold the whole battle line.
I hate your
Who knows how the game goes?
Poorly.
Who knows?
The game goes poorly.
So, there's advantages and disadvantages. On to the next.
We've got the Red Goblin Scout Sniffs. So these are basically goblins on flea bags that run around, have bows, and are your archery type scouty sort of guys.
There's two varieties, one with bows and one without. We can cover them both in the same drop here, I think.
Yep. Anything that I should say that they say the word scout, but they don't actually scout.
No.
Is there any reason to take one over the other, or is this sort of like a personal preference sort of thing?
I would take the scouts over the sniffs just because they have Thunderous Charge 1. So if they manage to get a flank, Crushing Strength 1 in the flank, doubling your attacks, 7 goes to 14, might actually do a bit of damage.
Just personal choice. They're both good. They're both good fast chaff units. Depends on what your list is built around. If you're going for shooting or if you're going for combat. So personal taste. That's it.
Yeah.
And they both have nimble, so
they're both nimble. They're both vicious. They're both speed 10. They're both the same height. Like fast chaff depends if you want something that can punch or if you just want to get in people's way and be a nuisance.
Yeah. All right, we'll go on to the warrior chariots. I don't know if I like these things or not. The hellish wheels. I don't know if I like the play. Am I wrong in thinking the hellish wheels is the
that used to be the formation. The new formation is not Hell's on Wheels. The old formation was.
Yeah, the old formation was Hell on Wheels. Yeah.
No, the hellish wheels is Rampage.
Oh yeah, it's Rampage.
Oh yeah,
but it's really crappy Rampage. I think it's like 2.
Yeah, it's not
something.
Enough attacks.
Like it's 2, 4, or 6.
Yeah.
So, I mean, chariots and an ogre army. These are, they're height 4. That's fantastic. Crush 1 Thunder 2. It's not bad. It's not a great speed buff. It only speed 8. But what do we think about these? Start with you here, John.
I played an all ogre chariot list at one point for some games, and it was hilarious. The threat distance that they get as opposed to regular ogres is crazy. They are Crush 1 Thunder 2, so they punch stuff real hard if you can get the first hit in. The only thing that they really struggled against was like speed 10 flyerless. Other than that, I had a great time with them, and I think I finished 3rd at one of our 2-day tournaments with this that I was playing largely as a meme list, but had a great time because they will just kill stuff. I also was playing so Ryan King had painted and sold his army because that's what Ryan King does is he finishes an army, plays it for a while, decides he doesn't want it, and then I buy it from him. So I bought it and played it for a few games, and the only thing I wished is that I had a legion of chariots. I had hordes of chariots, which is the most awkward size of the bases. So I didn't have the legion for the extra attacks. The biggest I had was the hordes, which is 4 wide and 1 deep. So it's just this, like, it's massive, trying to swing it around places. And with, 6 chariot units, everybody was in everybody's way all the time. But it was fun.
Yeah,
anything to add to this, Eamon?
I mean, warrior chariots, they look fun. Like we said, Hellish Wheels just is very meh for the points. If you have 5 or 10
I
points
wouldn't
lying
spend
around,
on that. No,
Yeah,
there's
neither
better stuff.
But like, I don't know. That, like, if you think a Legion of Warriors is thick, having multiple hordes of chariots or multiple hordes of legions,
Yeah, hilarious.
Looks terrifying, but they're just going to be tripping over each other. I think having 1 or 2 of these as like to bully people around while your other things get into position, I think is fair. Or even having just a single legion kind of floating around as like, hey, I got one with a really, really big stick. You probably don't want to come near me as something comes up to probably try to capture an objective or bully somebody's line around. Maybe.
Steve was using Ogre Chariot regiments to that effect quite well for the entire time he played Ogres. He'd use 1 or 2 regiments in a game and use them just to project threat and keep things off his main line so that his siege breakers and everything else could get into position. So,
and Jesse played an Ogre Chariot list that was terrifying.
He had a couple Ogres and sergeants as well. Same thing. Just use them to bully people around and then bring the rest of the Ogres in.
All right. Well, let's go down to the other type of chariots, which are irregular as well. These are the
terrible.
The warrior chariots aren't irregular; they're regular.
Boomer chariots are irregular.
Yes, sorry, you said as well. Sorry.
Oh,
the warrior chariots are not irregular. You can get on that.
We know. Boomer chariots are terrible except for the stealthy aura.
Yeah, that's the only reason you take them. You take them as
said.
a troop. You put them back powder, just give them more stealthy, and then you park them behind something.
Well, the fact that they're still speed 8 and can still shoot and do the stealthy aura and get a flank, like this is all pretty good.
Yeah, they can do some stuff, but they're not, as an individual unit, they're not good. The regiment only gets 12 attacks. Like,
they're why spend the extra points?
Bring them for the stealthy aura, which you can only bring 1 for stealthy aura, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone run more than 1 since this happened. So.
Yeah.
And it's 25 points regardless. So,
so 150 points for something that can shoot, do okay in charges to kind of aid, because usually ogre hordes kind of want like an extra 2 to 3 damage before they go in if they're going to solo charge, because they'll usually get past that bump. This gives them that extra 2 to 3 damage that they're looking for if they're going to try to solo charge something. And because they're height 4, they can see over your regular hordes, which means that they're going to double charge whatever with you. So as a one of
better with the height 4 thing that can see the flank of something over top of the hill, and they go, wait, you can see over that hill? I love that.
Yep.
It's less than
good times.
The other person.
Well, let's go on to one of my favorite and most annoying entries in this, and it is the Crocodile Wrangler. Eamon, why don't you go into one of the best individuals in the game?
Oh, this thing's amazing. I love it. So it has probably one of the coolest special rules that I enjoy. It's called Through the Legs. So if the unit has the Ogre keyword, which, surprise, surprise, the majority of your army that isn't goblins have the Ogre keyword, you can just blatantly ignore them for line of sight because they're only height 2. So these little dickheads will hide behind your Ogres, scout forward, like be able to see through them, and then just charge and do shit. They have wild charge D3 +1 and their speed 6, so they have a 12 to 16-inch threat range, which is hilarious. And they have duelist, they have crushing strength 1, not thunderous, crushing strength 1.
Which
7 attacks, they hit on 3s, they have vicious. Yeah, they hit on 3s. They're great. I use these things as a minimum 2 of in my list, any of my lists, because they are just that good. You could probably make an argument for 3. These things are great to protect your backline from flyers. Because they're individuals, they can just pivot 360 before their turn and go and charge whatever dragon decided to drop in your back row. The other thing that a lot of people get caught off guard with is that you just launch these at like regiments and hordes you don't want to deal with for the turn as you're dealing with the rest of the line. And they make great speed bumps. Them being 7 attacks, crushing 1, they're probably going to get a single wound, which means that you've disordered whatever you hit, which means that they can't charge through you. So this one little dog that's barking at you prevents your horde of infantry that was just about to flank my guys from doing anything. They are great. I love them. They are so much fun.
John?
No, they're great. I mean, that covers it. The only thing to adjust is their threat range is actually 14 to 16 because 6 is 12 plus 1 plus 1 of the D3, so they're a minimum of 14 inches.
They're minimum of
which
14 inches.
people don't expect.
Yeah, they bad touch a lot further, and they
7
can.
attacks.
They're great.
Yeah.
7 attacks.
21 if they're charging individuals, which they
Oh yeah,
love
that's
hunting
now
individuals.
crazy. So
Yeah,
You-
and
yeah.
vicious, and oh god, I hate these things so much. They're fantastic. Take one at very least in an army.
My favorite story of these guys was my Crocodile Wrangler charged a Twilightkin individual that was in front of the what are they called, the Reavers or the Mutants, whatever the ones that hit like trucks but are glass cannons from Twilight
Those are the
Kids.
army.
mutants.
Mutants. I was playing against Nathaniel. Crocodile charging into the individual. Nathaniel's just like, oh, he's just going to charge me. It'll be fine. And I'm like, I have duelists. He's like, oh. Killed the individual, then overran into the regiment of mutants who were flanking 3/4 of my front line, did 4 damage to them, and then he was just like, oh, I've lost. And I'm like, Crocodile! So, like, they are dumb. They're great. If you're not taking them in your list, you are doing it wrong.
Well, speaking of doing it wrong, there's the Mammoth. And I know a lot of people like these things. This is something that I have said a few times that I'm not a big fan of these things. The Mammoth is Crush 2. It is brutal. It can give out an additional brutal to something within 12 inches without line of sight. It is Thunderous 2. It does have Rampage D6 and Strider. And of course, that's only with the big deal that you can give out the additional brutal. It
also goes up to Brutal 2, which is really important, which means that you have 2 units with Brutal, or 2 combats going on with Brutal 2.
And it game's very inspiring, which is all really cool stuff. I'm still not a big fan, but then again, I might be bad at this game. Chariot Base, I'm not a big fan of. I've been playing a bunch of that sort of shit lately. Why don't we start here? Because I know Eamon's going to go all over on this thing. So, John, we'll start with you with Mammoth.
He was not my cup of tea before because for 250 points, I'd rather just take more Siege Breakers. Now, if I was to rebuild an Ogre list, I would give it a look and see where it lands. I never took it before. I tried it a couple times and hated it. It was always not in the position I needed. It never had enough offensive output because it's also melee 4.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sure, Crush 2, Thunder 2 sounds awesome, except he hits on 4s. So
with Rampage,
which nobody played infantry around here for the longest time. So that meant he was 12 attacks on 4s, so maybe 5 or 6 wounds.
All
I
right,
never bothered to take him. I'd rather take Siege Breakers. Now it's a different story.
Tell me why we're wrong again.
So I explained this in the chat a few times now. If we just go by the basic math of, we'll use Warriors now because Warriors are the standards, right? So on average, you're attacking with 18 attacks. You're going to be taking these guys in hordes. You're hitting on 3s, so push you down to 12 hits. If assuming it's Def 5, which is the average Def, you're doing 6 wounds, plus Brutal puts you to 7. 15, 17 means that you need to roll an 8 on 2d6 to waver. If you give it Brutal plus, if you're giving things Brutal plus 1 and or it's part of a Brutal 2 charge, now you only need to roll 7, which on average means that you went from, I need to spike a little bit to waver something, to on average, I'm going to waver you, and these are just on average dice. I think that is phenomenal. And the fact that you can split this up to give it, in theory, 2 different combats having Brutal 2, and if we're playing with command dice, up to a potential Brutal 3, is just silly. The Mammoth itself being speed 7 also means that, in use strength 1, meaning is that in late game, assuming that it's still alive and chilling, means that it can go and pick up a token. It can go and capture an objective. It can go... if you're playing control, it can run to the other side of the board and hold, that section of control or hold the line, which I have done and have won games because of it. This thing is great. I think that I would only take it as the big deal. I think just a regular Mammoth is garbage. But the big deal is the only way that you take a Mammoth, and I think that John is doing it a disservice.
Okay. Let's go on to... the Red Goblin Blaster. I've never seen anybody take this in an army.
Corey Walliser takes it every time.
I was just say Corey does a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, the only time I ever played Corey Walliser, he's playing bloody rats, and I was hoping to play his ogres, and of course he was playing.
Yeah,
that.
he brings one of these every time. had a custom model printed for it and everything.
You touched me in
Jesse
the
used to
back
bring
pocket.
3. I've brought red goblin blasters before. They're
Okay, well
hilarious.
then you can talk about them.
If you've got 65 points that you're not using, it's great. It's def 5, it's dash 10, so it's not waverable. It explodes with blast d6. It's got grenades that it can shoot. Once it explodes in combat, though, it's just gone from the table.
Yeah.
So you sacrifice that thing, and you get potentially, let's say you roll really good, 18 hits out of a 65-point unit at crushing 3 and brutal.
Just to point out, if it makes any successful attacks in combat, it automatically.
Oh yeah, it dies. You get 1 round of combat with that thing, but it does have grenades that you get to shoot indefinitely at piercing 1.
I might really like this unit.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's really good. And dash 10 means that you actually have to like overcommit to kill it. Otherwise, it gets to do stuff you don't want it to.
Well, dash 10 and defense 5, that is not something to sniff at. It's not as easy to take out as people think it is.
No, you're going to have to dedicate a regiment or a large infantry horde to remove it. And if God forbid this gets into your flank or something like that, it is so much bad touch. And because it has the ranged attack at 12 inches, it can just go like, I'm going to run up here, turn 90, look at your entire flank, and then throw grenades at you, forcing you to deal with me, or you're going to get this up the ass and you're going to have a bad day.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, I definitely think that if you have the points, I definitely think it's worth it. Even if you're like, what can I use this chaff that like can threaten enough on a flank that people are not going to want to play with all that much? These things are great.
All right.
And it scores.
It does. It is use and strength 1.
So if you don't get something that you really want and you get a chance to shoot, great, and then you can score at the end if it doesn't explode. Speaking of things that don't explode, let's go on to the giant. I think this is a mainstay of the Ogre army. I'm a fan of giants. I don't think they always work the way they're supposed to. I love playing them because I play a lot of ensnare, so I'm making hit on 5s, why the fuck not? But what do you guys think of this thing? I mean, it's a standard giant. It has everything a giant comes with.
Never played it in Ogres. Don't even have one based.
You don't either.
Nope.
I do. I think it's good. If especially now with how the lists have changed up, I think that getting that extra crushing strength is out. When you could spam siege breakers, it wasn't such a big deal. But now that you can't anymore, I definitely think that what you're saying is true. Is that it is a mainstay. I think having 1 giant is worth it if you can fit it in. I would always just give it Slayer because 9 times out of 10 you're charging the giant as something that Slayer is going to matter for. And then having Fury, having Strider, it just being crushing 4 off the bat, and having Brutal, which in theory you can give it +1, is kind of terrifying. And it's speed 7. So again, it kind of helps with that bullying the line that Ogres are having a bit of a trouble with right now, just being able to project that threat range. Or you can just, put a giant up and be like, I'm going to put this in a really awkward spot where you either have to charge the giant to kill it, now you're in range of my battle line to go do things, or you're going to have a giant doing really bad things to your flank.
I was always under the impression, and maybe I'm wrong in this, but I would always take a giant over a mammoth, whereas, like you guys were saying, now there's a conversation to be had because the extra points are warranted. So,
important side note here: you cannot give it brutal +1 from the.
No, I just realized that. I'm like, no, wait. It has
That's only for.
Has to be part of a combat that's Ogres are with it.
Yeah.
But you're usually not single charging with a giant anyway. But yes,
Crush 4 is great. The melee 4 is it's a giant. It's going to do stuff, or it's going to be tired. It's one or the other when it comes to a giant. That's why Harim may or may not be bad.
Harim is very medium.
Yeah.
And the fact that it has Fury is really good. So, if it gets wavered for whatever reason, somebody spikes a roll against it or something, it doesn't care. It's just going to keep
Wait, giants get Fury? No way.
Yeah.
Not yours.
Not mine.
On to the next.
Let's go on to the Red Goblin Slasher. I actually like this idea, the fact that it's more goblins. The aura for goblins it can get great. I don't think you're ever going to take this unless you're really playing a lot of goblin armies. Crush 2, Shark Stick thrower on the top is kind of funny. I mean, Blasty 3, 2 attacks, hitting on 5s. That's just for the shooting, steady aim, Pierce 2 thing. But this thing's still got 10 attacks, and it's still, it's still not that bad. But again, Speed 7. I would like to have seen this thing like a pip quicker. Then maybe you would take it instead of the giant sort of thing, but still paying about the same amount of points here.
I mean, it is melee 3, so there's an argument to be had of that, but it's only crushing 2. So I can see a place for it, but if you can make up the 15 points, take a giant.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got one of these instead of, because this is still a Titan. I mean, if you've got one of these instead of something else, and you like playing it because you would prefer to have the shots, the war trombone is not that terrible.
No, it had 10 attacks, and height 6 means it's going to shoot over your entire army without issue, and they don't get cover bonuses.
Yeah, this is all okay-ish type stuff, and it hits on 4s instead. I'm not sure if this is something that people would really take a good hard look at, but it's not a terrible thing.
I don't think you'd ever use the aura with it, because even if you have a whole bunch of goblins, your goblins are there to die so that your ogres can do the actual work.
Yeah,
so then having fury is if they only wavered your goblin, you're already being like, fuck, he was supposed to die anyway.
Yeah, you're probably upset that they didn't actually die from whatever the hell it was.
Usually. The fact that both of its weapon options have steady aim is pretty dope. I didn't realize that the sharpstick thrower had steady aim too, so that changes the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, but it's still only 2 attacks from that thing.
Yeah, fair.
But we will go on now. We're getting into the individuals and the heroes of the land here. So we'll start with the Red Goblin Bigot. Crush 1, 3 attacks, inspiring for everything. So I'm still waiting for somebody to just take a whole bunch of goblins that's in charge of a whacking big ogre army. So I just think that would be funny to find.
It has crushing strength 1. It hits with the same strength as your ogre warriors do,
which is hilarious.
He is melee 4 and only 3 attacks. I used to take one often and put him on a flea bag and run him around the board to wherever he needed to be. 3 attacks on melee 4, though, is a huge risk because you think he's going to ground something, but he doesn't always. The Wranglers are much better now than the Bigot, but if you need mobile inspiring and you don't have any points, he's good.
The other thing is that you can put the loot on him because he's only a 20 mil base. And with being individual, if you give him the loot to give that Bane chant throwing around, you can basically park him anywhere in the battle line, keep him safe from almost anything, and he's going to be able to inspire your warriors and B cast crush or Bane chant on whoever needs to get Bane chanted. So I definitely think that the Bigot potentially has a spot if you're like, I just need, I don't have enough points to get a sergeant, or I don't have enough points to get a berserker bully or something like that. But you have enough points to get. You need another inspiring source, or you need to put loot on something that may not always attack, but always needs to be near combat. I think these are a great choice for it.
Or you want to buy a blue command dice if you happen to play with command dice and just hide them somewhere in the back of the board, so he never dies and you always get the dice.
Yeah, that's actually really good. Actually,
yeah.
I didn't even think about that. I was just looking at that. And the bow is probably a no go. I mean, 3 attacks with a bow.
Oh no, the bows. I would rather have crushing strength than a bow with 3 attacks.
Well, let's get into the rest of this. One of the better better heroes I think that they have, the Berserker Bully. This is 8 attacks, crush 2, nimble, inspiring, wild charge D3. What a prick!
I think you meant to say one of the best heroes they have.
He really is like a dash 14. I'm not. The fact that he's only defense 4 should mitigate this, but my God, this guy will stay alive a lot longer than you really want him to be.
Okay.
An absolute steal at 130 points, if you ask me.
Yep, he's fantastic. Take 3.
Yeah.
Didn't you have a list that had 3 of them?
Yeah, often. I'm serious. They also inspire for no reason. So take 3.
That's when they got the Ogre heroes got better ever since they changed the inspiring rules. For the longest time, Ogre heroes only inspired specific types of ogres.
He used to inspire the berserkers, and that's it. And that was useless. Now he inspires everybody, and that's awesome.
Yeah,
take 3.
Yeah.
He should inspire nobody because he's a berserker. Yeah. Going on to the Boomer Sergeant. This is
speaking of inspiring nobody.
We could just skip over him.
He's garbage. We cannot skip over him.
Okay,
he's terrible.
He's terrible. Don't take him under any circumstances unless they change the stat line. That's all we have to say.
If they were to give him at least inspiring, that would.
If he had inspiring
at 90 points with his 8 attack shooting, I'd look at him then. I took him by accident one game thinking he inspired and then read that he didn't and never took him again because there's way better choices.
there is the 8 shots just doesn't.
Not enough.
It
It's
doesn't
only
take
12
it back
inches.
up.
It's only 8 shots. He's only
It's
crushing one in
nice.
combat. He's only speed 6.
Like he's only
Yeah,
doing like
like
2-ish
whatever.
damage a turn.
He's
maybe.
also 11-13 for nerf.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's garbage.
Yeah, no good. Next.
Bully's dash 14. He's just no.
All right,
Like
we'll
if
get
you
into
just need somebody to stand around, take a standard bearer. Next
yeah.
entry,
Well,
standard
speaking
bearer.
of which,
He's cheaper. He's very inspiring. Take him if you need something.
yep.
Yeah.
Also,
again,
not good.
Yeah,
He
you only
is
take
only-
him if you don't have enough points for a sergeant
real hero.
or bully, or you take him when you're short on points and you need another inspiring.
3 attacks.
Or you take the next entry if you have 5 more points.
Oh my God! Let's get into the thing that everybody will, and I know we've kind of glossed over the standard bearer. Really good, honestly, something to put your Bane Chan on. However,
He's very medium, and you have better choices. Pick something better. Save an extra 5 points and use it.
oh,
Yes.
Warlocks are
and-
75
oh, look.
points. 75.
As you were saying.
Warlock. Yeah. Better
Go
nerve. Fucking. He's just better. Better nerve. He comes with some. You can buy spells for him. He's just better. He's also starts as inspiring. He's an ogre warlock, which means you can buff spells, but only with merc units now.
Yep.
So all the ogres except the siege breakers buff his spells to a maximum of +3.
Yeah, that was what we've been alluded to the entire time. So beforehand, siege breakers had the merc rule that actually didn't really matter because it was just if it was an ogre regiment, horde,
It
or
was off the
legion.
ogre keyword, yeah.
Yeah, it just gave +1. Now they changed it that it needs the merc keyword, which changes it quite a bit. Lightning bolt spam was a thing for ogre warlocks because you can in essence get 4 of them because you have a special character warlock that has lightning bolt. So you used to take 3 ogre warlocks, all with lightning bolt, all with drain life, and Nom, who has heal and lightning bolt. You could get a potential of like 27 lightning bolt. I think it got up to. It was dumb. It was fun. It was dumb.
Is there a spell on here you would consider not taking other than Fireball? Because I don't see people taking Fireball.
No, you can take lightning bolt for it's just better. I like Mind Fog.
Things are different now, though, because you can't get the same kind of battery with the defense. You're going to be in combat more. Drain Life and Fireball, I think, might be better than Lightning Bolt now.
What
Hot
about
take.
oh,
Blood Boil also is hilarious to put on one guy.
amazing.
Yeah, no, Blood Bowl is great.
Yeah.
I can't agree with that just because like you're still trying to bully and threaten out. With Fireball, you're limited to range 12, where with Lightning Bolt you can at least hit things on the way in, so you could soften them up so that when you connect it in, you could fight. But at 12 inches, you're going to be one charger with your warriors. Like,
yes.
I don't.
But you're
I don't,
unlikely to be finishing stuff off, and you're more likely to be losing units now as ogres instead of having siege breakers that last forever, which means you're going to have a live combat unit in front of you that you can then fireball 8 to 11, depending on if you also take an item.
Yeah, but then like Lightning Bolt is more reliable of removing chaff. Like I almost always use my Lightning Bolt to try to remove chaff units, and after that was to soften units up as I charge back in. And I still think that's. I don't know.
Yes, but like
in my opinion,
about, the old ogre builds aren't working anymore.
Well,
so
no, I have a new one. I have a new one that's similar to my old Siegebreaker list that I think is still pretty powerful considering the stuff that I can plug in to get things going.
We should mention here that Mind Fog can be taken as an ogre spell, or it can be taken out of the library. If you take it out of the library, you don't get the buff it up.
No.
Correct.
I think,
go ahead.
Well, for these, I think that giving Veil of Shadows a look might be a thing that you could think of doing for your warlocks. They're already level 1, so you get Veil of Shadows 2, which I think is a decent if you didn't invest in the Boomer Chariot to get the Aura of Stealthy, and then giving them Sacred Horn to give a 9-inch Stealthy bubble for your Def 5 guys. Seems kind of ridiculous, but ogres really don't like getting pot-shotted and plink that with range. Because we don't only get access to heal when we're in combat with via Drain Life. Like Nam is the only heal that we have natively throughout the entire army. He's also the only Bane Chant we have natively in the entire army.
The fact that Veil of Shadows is something you can cast, which you could fail, as opposed to an aura, which is just on all the time. I mean, if you're going to spend the 25 points, like
but that's also assuming that you couldn't fit the Boomer Chariot in. Because that's like yes, it's the same point value in terms of the addition, but the Warlock's only 75 points, where the Boomer Chariot's like 140
125, 150 with it. So 150 with the aura. If you want to build a warlock to give the aura, you got to give him the Veil of Shadows too, which is 25, so he's up to 100. If you wanted to make it more reliable, you'd go with the increased spellcaster tier. So bump him up by 1 to 110 points and an extra 5 points for Veil of Shadows 3. So 115, and the aura, you're going to be about 140 points.
Yeah, assuming that we're getting the sacred. Yeah, assuming that we're taking the item on the other one, then it's the same. Like, were you looking at like a 35 to 40 point difference?
No, you're looking at like a 10-point difference.
No, we're assuming that we're putting the sacred horn on the chariot as well.
You can't put the sacred horn on the chariot.
Why not? Oh, because it's not in. Wait, can't you?
I don't believe so. I've never tried though. I could be wrong.
I didn't think it was. Is it restricted to hero?
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Oh, you can. Okay, and the sacred horn's 15 points.
Yeah.
So you're looking at like a 30-point swing. But like Ben said, you got to roll for it then, which is high risk, and then it's not in play at the top of 1 if you go second.
And I've done that before.
Which is a real thing. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I know.
Is there another spell in the spell library that you guys would? Well, obviously, Host Shadow Beast is something you're not using unless you're. No. Well, I mean, maybe if you really want to do it on one of those crocodiles, but the only other thing I see here that you might want to take a look at is maybe the Scorched Earth, maybe the Wither and Perish.
What does Wither and Perish even do? I can't remember.
It's like weakness.
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
It's similar to weakness.
Maybe Celestial Restoration nowadays.
You're forced to give the ineligible though, because they're only level 1 spellcasters, right?
That's fine. If you're going to
buy have to spend the 10 points.
35 points to get some actual extra healing going on your army on the way in. And warlocks don't care if they hang out on their own. They're self-inspiring. So
no, I think there's an argument. I think Scorched Earth is definitely good for them as well, especially considering we kind of lost the true anvil that we had with Depth 6 Siegebreaker walls.
I've heard Scorched Earth is very good. I've cast it one time and it seemed to help, but
I find that Scorched Earth ends up, because you normally take it with another spell, you always end up seeming to be using the other spell unless you're taking a guy just to kind of, he's there to stop this. That's what he's there for.
Yeah, specifically for an Ogre Warlock, because you want him to cast a lot of other spells. I don't think it's
kind of worth spells it. Are great. Like every spell that they can cast is great.
And he's the only spellcaster too, so it's not like you could take like if they had like a Goblin Wizard type thing that you could put it on him.
Goblin Wizard.
That'd be great.
Oh, it'd be so good.
But because it's your only spellcaster, you want him to do other heavy lifting. He's either casting Lightning Bolt or Fireball in John's case. He's casting Blood Boil. If you're in combat, you're casting Drain Life, because Drain Life 8, assuming that you have all +3, is a huge meat grinder. I scared the living crap out of Ray when he realized the full brunt of the Drain Life battery that I can get going. And then Nom's in the back there casting Bane Champ to get that +1 strength to whatever combat really needs it.
Well, since we're talking about spellcasters and that, we might as well talk about Namakarok. Everybody calls him Nom. This warlock it has 5 attacks, which will scare the shit out of people. Death 5, which again will scare the shit out of people. The fact that he's also got Bloodlust he gets the warlock bonuses for the mercs, but he does come with Bane Chant, Heal, and Lightning Bolt 4. So this all goes up to like Bane Chant 6, Heal 7, or fucking Lightning Bolt 7. Like this is nasty. And if he gets the heal off, the heal for the fact that you also get the
vicious after you heal them,
and you don't have to be wounded to put this on
it just has to be a successful hit. It doesn't say it had to heal them. It just has to be a successful hit.
I hate this so much. I really do. But it's been used against me, and it's fantastic. And I bitched like a little person who was in the very
a little baby.
Yeah, I did. But they were right, and it worked, and it was terrible, and it was a bad combat for me. But these things happen. Nom is the one he's still undercosted. He has been adjusted,
100%.
adjusted, and he is still undercosted. But until he is properly costed 165 points for this guy who does so many things, so many different ways, with inspiring, there's no reason not to take this guy.
Oh, he's an auto include. Like I don't run a list without putting him in it. He's your only native healing and Bane Chant in your entire list. Giving out fishes out to random things is absolutely great. The fact that you can get up to heal 7 is just bonkers. And he's great. And 5 attacks, you're going to get flanks, and then people don't realize, oh crap, that's 10 attacks with Crushing Strength 1 in the flank with Brutal. Sure, I only hit on 4s, but like that could just be the point that you needed to get over, or if you're charging with a horde of warriors or something like that, that's your second source of damage to kind of kick you over that nerve bump that you're trying to hit.
Well,
He also scores.
He also scores.
I want to put in that all the ogres score, which is great.
All right, well, let's go on to the Ogre Warlord. I don't see a lot of these nowadays. Natural Crush 2. You can make him Crush 3, but why would you ever take him to Defense 4? You can put him on Chariot. Mm-hmm. Height 4, again, really damn good. Speed 8, 7 attack. Fantastic guy who's just going to end a Thunder Charge 1. So let's just go to Crush 3. Why the hell not? You could give this guy like the Boots of Striding or something like that. And just get him in because he really doesn't need much. I think the fact that you wouldn't take him is just the fact that the sergeants are just cheap enough, and they do that little bit more. You can take a Crocodile, which is weird, and I've never seen anybody take a Crocodile with any of this stuff. Probably rightfully so. But what do you? Either one of you used a Warlord at any point in time?
I've used him on a Chariot before. He's fun that way if you're playing into a more speed build list, but I think bullies are kind of better bang for your buck for what he's going to be doing in terms of
almost
jobs.
The same charge range as well, which is
pretty much the same range, a little bit cheaper and fearless, so you can actually get him into places he's not supposed to be and not worry about him having to be being unable to fight back.
Yeah,
and the bully gets an extra attack.
If you were going to put the sergeant is a difference of 45 points. Basically, almost the entirely same thing with the nimble, but sorry, did they get elite or not? Did I miss that?
The sergeant has elite.
The sergeants are elite, and the warlord isn't.
Yeah, well, there's the reason right there.
So that's a big change too. Yeah.
If you're not taking the warlord as a chariot, then you should just be taking a sergeant and saving yourself 45 points.
Sergeants can also go on a chariot. So
sergeant can go on and still take the crossbow.
Yes. Yeah. They also only have 5 attacks as opposed to 7. So, if you want to pay elite 45 points for 2 attacks and losing elite, that's just not good.
The Warlord's in a weird spot compared to the other options that are available.
Yeah, the Warlord definitely needs to either be Crushing 3 natively.
Now, other fun adjustment is the Sergeant can be the Paymaster, which used to be its own special character that was useless. Now you can take it on a good character and get Rally 1 for your mercs. So all the hunters and warriors and shooters and boomers can all get Rally 1 as well.
They go up to 16, 18, which is a phenomenal place to be at. It's just terrifying. As soon as Paymaster came on Sergeants, if you can find the points for it, you should take it. It's 125 points, and you're laughing.
Yeah, it's going to help keep all of 16, 18 units with Def 5 coming across. We all lived through that in the end of 1, beginning of 2 sort of thing with the Varangur, which had this natively. The fact that the Paymaster now rightfully is on something with Inspiring is really bloody good.
He was a non-inspiring low attack hero before. It was weird. And it was a weird jam into the last days of that.
But let's, we should also say that it's blanket elite. So it's elite for the crossbow. It's elite for your attacks. He's basically just an even taller elf at this point.
Yeah, and the crossbow's the same as the shooter crossbow. So you're still shooting 30 inches. You still have piercing 2. You're at 5. But he has steady aim, so he can move and shoot without issues. I've been currently taking him with exchanging the 2-handed weapons for getting to go up to Crushing 3 with him, because usually he's almost always hitting in on second line or it's a second person in a charge. The other way I use him is that if I have a sergeant chilling around, is that I find that he's really good as somebody charged a dragon into my backfield. I sent a dog after it. grounded it for a turn while my sergeant turns around to go beat up the dragon. I find that that's a really good 1-2 punch, and being crushing 3 really helps to really get rid of that dragon. Being 13-15 nerve means that he probably survives a punch from a dragon, because most dragons have usually crushing 2 thunder 1-ish range. So
dragons are usually crushing 3, but only 10 attacks. So
that's what it is. Yes, thank you. So it's he like maybe survives a clapback from a dragon. If not, the dragon's weak enough that a second dog or something else can turn and deal with it. So I just find that he's in a really good spot, and sergeants are everything that you want, minus a couple of attacks.
Well, you know what's a sergeant, but a little bit better and way too expensive, in my opinion. Now it's what's his name again?
Grokkamok. Grok is a crab.
It is too bad. Crush 3, blast D3 on 7 attacks, hitting on 3s. This guy will wipe out units by himself.
Like he can, yeah. Especially if he flanks, because he's a big guy, so he can double and triple attacks depending on where he hits you. So
I mean, so for every hit, so roughly this is going to be 5 hits. Now roll, you get D3 hits for every one of those.
Yeah.
So that's 10 hits go through. At crushing 3 means you're probably rolling 2s, which means that you're doing 8-ish damage. He's terrifying.
Nimble.
And he's nimble. The problem is that he's way too many points.
He's 230 points. He's very inspiring. He should be at that price.
Oh, 100%. The other thing is that people know Grok, because Grok used to be really prevalent in 2nd edition.
Yeah.
I found that a lot more people are using him in 2nd. So people got used to being like, I need to kill him. I need to kill him now.
Yeah.
And or put things in front of it so he can't get into combat. So people got used to defending against Grok, which means that you couldn't actually leverage the points that he was worth, because he costs a horde of units. Like he literally costs a horde. He's 230 points. Your warrior hordes are freaking not that much. Your warrior hordes are 200.
I would love to see, and not love to see him coming out again, but charge range of just a standard 12 inches. I don't know. It might be
but your goal is not to put him into the front of something, because he does cost the same as a horde, but he brings in the same nerve and defense as a horde, so he'll likely last as long. But if you can get him into a flank, and then he's got 14 attacks hitting on 3s, and then you roll your blast, then he's worth more than a horde.
Yeah.
So, but he's expensive to fit into a list, and you have to build a list around him, I think, if you're going to do that, which is...
And it's a very specific play style. Like if you're trying to deliver Grok into something, your opponent knows what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And they're going to... A good player will have some sort of tool to either prevent or delay it, to the point where, oh, okay, you finally got to do your Grok move. It doesn't actually matter
anymore. Well, maybe when we're playing, I don't know, like 2,600 points at a...
That could be fun, yeah.
It could be fun to kind of fix them in. All right, we're down to our last 2 little entries here. But we do have Kuzlo and Mathfall.
Yeah.
They
are very interesting.
Yeah, it's a large cavalry base too, which is, it's a 50 mil. It's a spellcaster. He does come with Enthrall and Hex. Hex is something that we don't use a lot around here, but it can be very useful.
Mark uses Hex a lot in his...
Well, he also has a Hex caster.
Yeah, he's the only one who uses Hex, really, though.
Hex is weird. Nathaniel uses Hex. He has it in his Twilightkin lists.
Yeah, but so Hex isn't... It's okay. I haven't found a great use for it. I don't find it stops people from casting spells. But
I don't bring wizards with spells, so I don't have to worry about it.
Your children on horses?
Yeah. One of them brought 1 spell last tournament that I cast 1 time, so they all lost their spell privileges again.
My mommy sewed a W, so I'm a wizard.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
Kuzlo and Madfall, Greg Persons used many times when he was playing Ogres, and they are silly. Like, they can do a lot of things.
They can. The fact that they are a large cap, the fact that 5 attacks, so in the side.
And Pathfinder, and their speed 8, and they have Ravenous Lizard and Sticky Tongue, so they actually reduce your nerve by 1.
Yeah, they have an essence brutal +1.
They are...
Because it stacks.
But it applies to everybody, your guys and their guys.
Oh, it's a double-edged sword.
Be careful where you leave him, but as, his own kind of, flanking piece that just runs around and runs amok and just does stuff to people and gets in flanks and gets to the rear and
He has
moves units
Pathfinder,
out of
he's speed
position. He can go wherever he wants. He can do whatever he wants. He's inspiring self only.
Yep.
He's an interesting character to add into lists if you've got the point or want to try something different.
Yep. I actually do think, and he's priced actually quite well, 145 points for this guy.
And he's crushing 2, melee 3, 5 attacks. Like, he'll do
It's
some
so
stuff.
good.
And regen 4. So
Yeah.
he
His
lives for a
enthrall
long
actually
time.
does damage. Like you actually get a roll for damage for his enthrall roll. Like for 145 points, I definitely think that there, as long as you position them well, I think that there's definitely a place for them. I would have to play more with them in mind, but they're definitely on my radar of to experiment with, being able to stack that, because my new lists have a bit more mammoths and have a bit more big deals, and being able to kind of stack multiple instances of brutal in essence is, just getting a +3 to damage guaranteed is kind of terrifying.
Yeah. Well, our last thing in the entire list is Namagarok's Cabal. It's the formation. I'm pretty sure neither one of you have tried this out yet.
And I don't think I ever would.
Yeah, it comes with the. This is the box set for sure. This is the Red Goblin Sharp Sticks, which now become a -14. These is a regiment of warriors. What do they get off of this? It doesn't
Rally 1 for goblins.
Rally 1 for goblins. It's
And the sharp sticks going to -14 doesn't even give them a bump. It's just going to -14.
Yeah. It just
so
means
now you have fearless goblin rabble, which we don't really care about.
We already want them to
rallying
die
for goblins, which you want to die. And your warriors then have to be near the goblins, which you want to die.
So,
and they're only regiments too. So if you're playing with warrior regiments, they're more thick chaff type of. They're the ones chilling on your flank to protect you getting flanked in. Like they're not your frontline unit.
If you're taking a lot of if you want to take this thing out for all the.
If you want to lean into goblin spam, try it out. But I think you got better units than goblins.
I think the people that take everybody that takes Nom must now take this as the formation.
I mean, if the formation gave me
Nom gets saddled with, yeah.
I mean, that would actually be cool if he did something for spellcasters or just Nom itself.
Or if you could only get Nom by bringing the formation.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
I mean, I would still take the formation.
Play Nom again.
Yeah, everyone
would still take
the formation.
I'd still take the formation.
And be saddled with this extra unit of fearless goblins just hanging out at the back of the board because they won't know what to do with it. It would be great.
No, you just send those 3 on your flank. They go deal flanky things. That's all they do.
If that's what you're going to do, I think Kuzlo and Madfall might be the way that you want to go with this sort of thing.
Yeah, probably.
Well, they are a great unit. I definitely think more people need to play with them, just because of how. When used correctly, I think they should play.
More people need to play with their lizard.
I think more people need to play with the lizard too.
And wait until the sticky tongue comes out. It's fine.
Interesting. On that note, we've reached the end.
We have come to the end of the Ogre review. We almost made it the entire way out without having some sort of weird ass preference. Now, I would like to thank the pair of you for doing this. We're still doing more of these. But for now, thank you both for showing up. Thank you all for listening. And we will see you again on the next one. See you later.
See you.
Bye.